So there's been there's been this factor happening for a very long time, and among the things that happen is that usually around a certain time that correlates with things going on elsewhere in the world, I get a currency. Sometimes it's really good, and sometimes I'm actually very precise at identifying points connected to the noting on point of origin or where it is going to be deposited. And because of who I am, a lot of times it correlates with things I have an interest in, which are maintaining my investigation, following through on making sure that I do what I need to do in my due diligence so that I can, at some point, be a part of what I know is inevitable, which is some form of criminal proceeding regarding the charges that I've attempted to have investigated and filed, and or some part of the restitution. And because of the obscuration that's happened and because of the prolongation of the time frame during which it has been obstructed, these charges are very severe and significant. So right now I have access to a book of opinions by Justice Scalia. And regardless of what I may have thought about him politically, I've actually found reading his opinions to be incredibly reaffirming. And tonight, because of what happened and because of where I am with the book I'm reading, I was reading opinions, or at least the introduction to opinions that he had written connected to the topic of homosexuality. And among the things that came up is my understanding of, based on what he was saying, and my understanding of other sorts of distillations of these considerations, that primary to what I'm experiencing and how this perspective that I encountered could potentially impact an assessment or an understanding of the point I'm trying to raise, the constitutional issue, is a matter concerning fundamental rights and who has the jurisdiction in interceding to define and or obstruct pursuit of due process in accordance with fundamental rights. And the primary constitutional question is it a fundamental right to compel commercial sexual activity out of a person for the benefit of another? Is it constitutionally protected in some manner? And then there are a variety of constitutional amendments that could be cited. But in terms of the constitutional question, is it a fundamental right to compel commercial sexual activity out of an individual for the benefit of others? And then inversely, the question has to be asked, under what circumstances is it acceptable for the state to compel commercialized sexual performance for the benefit of others? It's a pretty simple question on one hand. On another hand, it gets to many other kinds of questions and kinds of issues. If you want to talk about concepts that have already been discussed, that have been presented before a court of law regarding constitutional issues related to sexuality or sodomy or these matters, that's one thing. But core to this is the concept of mental capacity and concepts of duress in compelling activity without the consent of the person involved. It's pretty comprehensive. Does the state have a right to compel individuals to perform in acts of commercialized sexual activity to benefit others? The point being that at some level, there has to be an acknowledgement that even if that person consents to commercial sexual activity, The intention is not to engage them in commercial sexual activity for their benefit. The expectation is that they engage the commercial sexual activity for the benefit of others. And those are constitutional distinctions. Because discussing this as a matter of privacy or as a concept of engaging in some form of ordinary political process is different if it is meant to be to your benefit, i.e., if you are a consumer, versus if it is something that is expected to be made available for the benefit of another. That was the constitutional question that got called tonight. But, like everything that has been happening for months, over a year now, if I get all by myself in my room, no electronics on, just reading a book, at the end of the night, it's going to Sam. What? All that you just said, all that you just did, it's going to Sam. Almost like it's a crisis thing. Mind you, for years, the only person I've been allowed to talk to has been named Sam. There's been four of them. There's been four of them ever since the 2016 election. There was a couple more people during 2016. But after the election, pretty much, there were three Sams. And now I've got a Sam, right? And before that, there was another Sam when I was on the street. And then before that, when I was in the shelter, there was another Sam. And I believe the Sam they're going after is the federal contractor database. That every night they run some crypto on me. I don't know if they surveil me through the camera. There may be other surveillance. There's other ways, including the telephone. There's other ways with other things that are going on. They could actually be recording my voice profile, my vocalizations, not just what I'm doing now. They're recording me, and they're using it as a currency. And they've already set up concurrent processes. This is how I'm able to track this stuff. They've been doing it for years. And so they leave me in isolation, and they leave me all by myself, and they never acknowledge me directly. And then my emails get interfered with. Nobody ever gets my calls. Nobody ever returns my calls. What does get reflected back to me about any of my efforts is a grotesque caricaturization that's meant to impact me on some psychological level into demonstrating some sort of behavioral response as a means by which I believe to test if I've finally gotten the point about what's acceptable behavior in order for me to get to the next level. But regardless of all of that, every night, everything I do goes to Sam. And I believe that that is the database that the federal government has for contractors. So I'm going to start a new leaf tonight. Every once in a while, I actually try to take some initiative in my own life. I'm going to go through the DoD contracts and see the ones that are announced as having been awarded today. And I'm going to see if any of those benchmarks or any of those indicators that came up while I was discussing things right here are present in a contract award, which means that today, while they're processing that award, they're using me to launder it. And the conversation they want to have is about homosexuality and dead Syrian soldiers. Let's see what comes up right now. Sometimes I'm more successful at this than others. Okay, right here. Defense.gov, contracts for November 30th, 2020. Balfour Beatty Construction LLC, Dallas, Texas. Wow. That's right here in Texas. Construction, do you know how precise that is? Now, is this the one for me? It's like I'm shopping for DoD contracts. What else do we got here? What looks, oh, well, Harper. I used to live on a Harper Street. What else do we got here? El Cajon. Wait, you mean like El Cajon Dam? Oh my God. You do know I have an article that was dated 10 days ago, 5 years and 10 days ago. I published an article about the El Cajon Dam. I'll be damned. It's right here in front. How precise is that? What is this for? It is for 2.14 contracts combined is $2.5 billion. Oh, repair and renovation within the North American Industry Classification System Code. Then it says the code for commercial and institutional facilities. Are those prison camps they've been talking about? Would this have anything to do with FEMA? Well, it's through the Navy. That wouldn't make much sense, would it? I mean, I actually think I just found it. It's the first one right up here. But always our favorite guys to go to right here, because these would be the people they would put in those prison camps. And they're talking about, yes, they are. They're even talking about the propulsion systems. And what were we dealing with today? We were dealing with air traffic controllers. So this totally fits here. Who got that? Who was supposed to get that stock so they'd be eligible as some R&D on this contract? I mean, these guys get contracts all the time, so they're probably just going to take patents that they are creating based on old patents they've already gotten, and maybe they got some new techniques sussed out as part of the continuing development because they have not been compelled to relinquish their claim to those test subjects because nobody's successfully brought a case discussing the constitutional issue of compelling people without their consent into processes of human test subject experimentation for weapons companies under the auspices of receiving medical treatment. But this one is probably for someone else. Keep going. I'm not really into them. I know a little bit more about them than I'd like to. These people, I tried to have them sanctioned. That would be a conflict of interest, even though the location I was just talking, again, it's another Texas contract. I love it when that happens, right? Oh, these guys here, I had no idea. Did they take over for that other engineering company from Chicago? I've never seen a DoD contract for Chicago that's talking about contracting activity in the place I was born. Is this the big deal? Is this what they've been hoping for this whole time? On November 30th, 2020, exactly 25 years after what? Wow. Okay. Something from San Diego. They get stuff all the time, but it is for the Naval Information Warfare Center Pacific. I mean, isn't that the kind of thing every girl wants to be involved with? Tampa again, another place I lived in when I was. That's where this whole contracting gig got started. Was when I lived in Tampa. Oh my God, is this whole score for me today? Did I score the whole day on my date with the dead Supreme Court Justice? Let's see. Cape Canaveral. You mean where Space Eagle used to live before you murdered his tree? Wow. These guys, Boeing. I mean, it's Boeing St. Louis, though. Don't worry. You know what I'm saying? The Collins, that's supposed to be in Texas, is in Chicago. And the Boeing, that's supposed to be in Chicago, is in St. Louis. Nice. Hawaiian Dredging Construction Company. Is that supposed to be a swap out for Harza Engineering and their legacy dredging contract that's coming due right about now? Yeah. Hmm. Okay, this is the Air Force. You know how those guys go. Although I'm not going to tell you the metrics because I think I'm supposed to use those later. It might be a proprietary process. Here's that base that had that conflict of interest with that report I did, but that was a report from June. It's not on the list right now. Let's see. DynCorp. Nice. Oh, wow. They're talking about Afghanistan and Kosovo. You mean like where those emergency military appropriations came up in 1996 that included the $1 million to investigate and prosecute war crimes? Do you remember? How many years ago was that? 24. I bet you it was an emergency appropriations bill that had a benchmark date of November 30th, didn't it? Do you think? Do you think DynCorp would have gotten a contract for over $52 million to provide services in Kosovo as part of some sort of, I don't know, delivery on a capital outlay for $1 million connected to war crimes investigations? Is DynCorp going to back me up to the tune of a $52 million contract with the DOD to prosecute war crimes in Afghanistan, Kosovo, Kuwait, and Germany? I want to thank you so much, DynCorp, for your offer. I'm taking it right fucking now. $52,301,773. November 30th, 2020. You need to contact me within 10 business days. If December 11th, 2020 hits and you haven't contacted me directly, then this is going to be considered bad faith.